This week on the show, we're remembering the great David Lynch by discussing his 1990 classic Wild at Heart, starring Nicolas Cage and Laura Dern. This is Boy Party! Did I ever tell you that this here podcast represents a symbol of my individuality and my belief in personal freedom? Hello, everybody. Welcome to Boy Party. My Nicolas Cage voice needs a lot of work. You're not much better than me.
No.
But luckily, we can do Lynch, so we're fine. Since the poor man, his body's barely cold, and we've spent the whole week just doing back and forth Lynch impressions, trying to outdo each other.
As he would have liked.
I don't know how he would have reacted to you doing an impression of him to his face. He seemed to have a sense of humor about pretty much everything.
Yeah, like he played a guy on the Cleveland show.
Yeah, he played himself on the Cleveland show. Sure. I think he understood the humor in his unique way of speaking and existing and making art.
He's kind of inconsistent in what he found amusing, I think.
Sure. But he's also like one of the funniest people ever.
Yeah.
As in he has written and directed some of the funniest films ever, none of which are you would describe as comedies, but all of which have absolute tons of laugh out loud moments. Mm-hmm. But anyway, welcome to Boy Party, a podcast. That's as much as I'll do for now.
Yeah.
Podcast about movies where two major stars shared the screen working for the greatest director of their generation and battled it out for his love and affection and giving them great roles. And this week we're discussing Wild at Heart,
he seemingly had an abundance of love and affection to give. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's one of my all-time favorite films. I think it's my favorite David Lynch film. I watched it twice this week, once on my own, once with a friend of the show, Isabel, on Thursday, and then once with Shane last night, and then I went to bed, and then I finished it this morning. Mm-hmm. So I watched it twice this week. A new thing I'm doing in the last year or two, where if I watch some classic film that I love and I've had a really good time, I'm just happy to go back and watch it again a week later.
Yeah.
I did it last year with Network. I did it with, obviously, the In-Betweeners movie. I did it with The Bodyguard.
Oh, God.
An inconsistent bunch, but This belongs on there anyway.
We're like a year out from you discovering the In-Betweeners. I think it was like the 7th of January last year.
Oh yeah, it was this time last year. I discovered the In-Betweeners and watched the In-Betweeners movie twice, 3 weeks apart. I discovered Wild at Heart through another friend of the show in the depths of COVID. I mean, I was into Lynch and I had seen a good few, but I hadn't gotten around to this one. Didn't have, for some reason, a sense that I was going to like it, despite it starring Nicolas Cage, who I've always loved. And I was told that it was definitely up my alley, and I watched it on a crappy eBay projector in my bedroom in my parents' old house in Sligo in the middle of April 2020 in a nightly slot I allocated to watch a classic film with my phone in the other room to try and build up my repertoire, and this was one of the highlights of that period by far. What a weird, eerie space to put yourself in the middle of initial COVID lockdown to be watching the work of David Lynch, but it was perfect. And what had basically happened was that the Lighthouse in Dublin were doing a David Lynch season in March 2020 to tie in with the 40th or 50th anniversary of The Elephant Man. I'm not sure what year Elephant Man came out. 40th anniversary, I guess. Re-release, and they cancelled that season basically because it was due to start the week that COVID started. And then I was very much in the mindset of like I had been planning to go see all these David Lynch movies in the cinema, but then the second that COVID the lockdown was sort of relaxed and they allowed cinemas to reopen, they put on that season later in the summer. So I got to see Wild at Heart in the cinema then. A few months after I'd first watched it at home, I got to see Mulholland Drive in the cinema. It was a wonderful time. And then obviously since then I have gotten the chance to see Inland Empire in a cinema. I've gotten to see The Straight Story in a cinema. I've gotten to see Lost Highway in a cinema with you. Yeah. So I've basically seen more David Lynch movies on a big screen than not, which is a bit of a miracle considering how long ago they all mostly came out.
Released.
Yeah, like I mean, I was alive for Mulholland and Lost Highway and
you weren't of age.
Inland Empire, but sure. So it's kind of a miracle that I've gotten to see so many of them in the big screen, which is exactly how they should be seen. And it's disappointing that they don't get shown more often, I guess, because I feel like this movie should be shown in cinemas all the time. You should have gotten more chances to see it in the cinema. But regardless, it's great, and I think you've had a good experience with it nonetheless. You said you remembered very little of it from the first time you saw it. I think the first time you saw it, you were sleeping and snoozing. Even though this movie is the most wake you up out of your slumber.
Oh, I know. Like I remember some very
shit.
very specific images out of it. Like I remember the flying witch. I remember Willem Dafoe's Bobby Peru.
I'm interested that you
remember-
remember The Witch, because all the Wizard of Oz stuff completely faded from my memory.
Really?
Yeah, that's like the one part of it.
Because
I
I think
totally
I woke
blanked
up at the end and I remember the witch like flying along by the car.
right.
Um,
And then, of course, the Good Witch shows up at the end.
Sorry, the Good. I remember the Good Witch.
This is a much better Wicked movie than the John M. Chu picture. You have both Glinda and Elphaba showing up in this film in brief appearances.
Yeah.
They should retroactively go back and replace them with Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo, George Lucas style.
Absolutely.
Bobby Peru is the most unforgettable part of this film. If I think of Wild at Heart the last 4 or 5 years since I last watched it, the first image that comes to mind is Willem Dafoe looking real scary.
I'm surprised this is really one of your favorite films ever, because this film is terrifying and traumatizing
and grisly.
and gruesome and just pretty nasty in a lot of points.
It is very nasty in a lot of points, and I think the contrast between the nasty bits and the lovely bits is so intense and intentionally so that it creates something euphoric. And he's creating this situation where, and I saw somebody say this earlier today, every time the lovers are together, the world is a beautiful and hopeful place. Yeah. And every time they're apart, everything goes to shit and turns violent and awful. And it's like, it creates this situation where you become so profoundly invested in the idea that this love that they share will save the world that it ends up being like incredibly moving. I think that the two of them, Dern and Cage, have like an extraordinary on-screen chemistry that like that's not even a good word to describe it to me. It's like fireworks between them.
Yeah.
And
because he's always kind of got a pretty manic personality about him, but like
he brings that out in her,
completely keeping up,
and
in
like
a way that feels incredibly natural. And it almost makes his performance look pretty in control.
Yes, it does, because I think she's more unpredictable in this than he is.
Oh, absolutely. I think she's kind of the lead of this. Like, very much so.
You
but
could say so, yeah.
I don't know. Like, watching the Laura Dern,
he's more of a mystery in it, I suppose.
Yeah,
her family and stuff.
You get a lot of her history there through it. But I think watching it is like an incredibly, like, you're describing it as fireworks and like this perfect relationship. But I think that also makes it like incredibly anxious to watch all the time.
I guess so.
I don't know, because I feel like I'm almost sitting there like, is her dependency and fondness of him like kind of, I don't want to say like a trauma response, but it's like,
yes,
it's a weird.
Well, it is to a certain degree. You learn pretty quickly that she's been abused. That her father has died horribly. Just before she meets Sailor. And then you find out that she's been abused by her uncle, and then she has this horrible encounter with Bobby Peru later on, and you realize that she's absolutely been like a victim of horrible violent acts, and that her relationship with Sailor for her obviously represents an escape from that.
I'm almost just sitting there waiting for it to go wrong, because I feel like she's not wound up, but like she's dealt with so much that it just seems like nothing can go right for her character, and it's kind of, I almost had a bit of a false hope the entire time going through it, just being like, this is...
I guess, but knowing what I know about Lynch and how he approaches this type of thing, and also the Wizard of Oz elements that are laid throughout it, I think I click pretty early on, this is going to be a film with a happy ending. Because it is ultimately, despite all of the chaos and the noise, following a pretty nice Wizard of Oz arc towards a happy ending and a loving relationship.
And it does a nice thing where like the kind of traditional end of second act point of conflict is never between the two of them.
No.
They're always a unit, and the
worst
conflict comes from elsewhere.
But also the worst things that happen are all when they are separated for any period of time.
And rob the bank, or she's left alone.
And this is when things start to go wrong. The other reason I love it so much is I just find it's the slowness of it, which it's not a particularly slow film, but the slowness of it is the most enjoyable space to just lounge in. And I absolutely go nuts for the Harry Dean Stanton driving in his car, and the way that it cuts away to something else and then cuts back to him in his car and cuts away and cuts back. It's just like, I am so happy to just sit and exist in this space with like that character and with that couple, and maybe a little bit less so with Bobby Peru.
Because they're technically fleeing their state to go to California. but they're kind of relaxed. They're never actively being chased. Harry Dean
No.
Stanton's kind of after them, but he doesn't really care.
But then there's also the assassin after them.
Yeah.
Because the other thing is it takes a crazy left turn for like long stretches in the middle into this like secret society movie with these kind of crazy secret meetings and all of this stuff going on.
There's a whole sequence with Harry Dean Stanton tied to a chair in the middle that I'm
Oh yes, that too.
Just not got lost in, but like just kind of.
But it's a movie.
Wait, what was happening
It's
there?
a movie to get lost in. I think it's designed like a train of thought that's constantly going off the rails, where they will be hanging out, the plot is moving forward, somebody will stop and tell an anecdote, and the film will fly away into some kind of semi-fantasy, whether that be about the uncle of hers who was making sandwiches, played by Crispin Glover, or about the relationship with her father and his death.
Yeah, I think we just see every other character in this get derailed and something go wrong, and you're kind of just sitting waiting for it to happen to them, and it kind of doesn't.
Yeah, but it kind of functions as a farce in that way, which is great. And like there's like kind of slapstick elements to how everyone gets knocked off the board except the two of them.
Yeah, and they're such a typical messy couple where you're like, this is in any other film, these are just going to be fighting and bickering and everything goes wrong all the time. But
no, because Lynch believes in the couples like this that exist in the world more than any of the rest of us do. Yeah. And I think his like being the least cynical filmmaker alive is what makes this film work, because he's completely able to hand his heart and investment over to the two of them in a way that nobody else could, you know?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of like analysis of Lynch since his passing on how he kind of almost from a completely neutral perspective depicts certain elements of American life, and I guess this is kind of a particular element of a
it's kind of
relationship where he just took all the good out of it.
Yes.
Took a lot of good out of a certain stereotype of America and like distilled that down into this pair, and
it's also the spirit of kind of Elvis Presley culture and that whole kind of traditional 1960s onwards kind of like rock music kind of dance hall world. This film like believes in that being cool and interesting and romantic in a way that most of us don't. But I think it's incredibly persuasive in selling the idea of like the Elvis Presley version of romance, which you ultimately get Cage singing Elvis. And you think about Cage and you go, well, he was married to Lisa Marie Presley. I think Nicolas Cage is the other person aside from Lynch who like entirely believes in this version of America. Yeah. And like he tried to create this for himself with a literal Presley, and I suppose it didn't work out for him. But I do think that Cage is basically playing himself in a lot of parts of this film. Based on my, I suppose, positive impression of him, that he probably doesn't inhabit similar nice traits to Sailor. Although it will be said, Sailor is like a guy who just absolutely kicks the...
He murders a guy.
Kicks and man to death.
He kills a guy in the first scene.
Opening scene.
Yeah.
Which is completely nuts. But
again, just sets an absolutely manic tone for everything that's going ahead. And I guess like you're like, oh, these are dangerous, wild people.
Yeah.
And there's kind of they don't leave it up to your imagination as to, oh, maybe Sailor did something bad or he didn't. He fucking killed a guy.
Yeah.
And it was like,
the guy he killed was hired by her mother to kill him. So self-defense, you know.
Sure.
I want to talk for a minute about the women that Cage has been in films with, because we're going to do Cage again here. I'm sure we've done him before. I wanted to take a specific angle on his career, and basically come to the conclusion of, is Laura Dern the ultimate number one best Nicolas Cage love interest? Which I think the answer is probably going to be yes. I'm going to look through here some of the women that he has played opposite in films. We have Diane Kruger in the National Treasure movies. I'm a big fan of that.
Sure.
I think that's a good dynamic.
It is, but I don't remember that film as being particularly a romance. Like, I guess it's kind of just
I like the second one a lot, where they've split up.
Okay.
And she's going out with Ty Burrell.
Sure.
The White House guy. Yeah. And he's like flirting with her and kind of being like, come on, Abigail, let's go on. And I like that. I like people in their 40s who are separated, reconnecting. Yeah. It's always nice. Then Patricia Arquette in Bringing Out the Dead. Oh, she's so good in that.
God.
Real life wife of his. So it would be a shame if that one wasn't a good pairing. I think she's great.
Still real life wife.
No. He's married to a much younger woman now.
Yeah.
But I think him and Arquette are still on good terms. But I think Arquette is great in that movie. But she's playing a real like. She's like what? Is she a heroin user? she's someone who's very sedate. Anyway,
Is it her whose dad dies?
Yes.
Yeah.
She runs into him at the hospital.
She's just like a poor New Yorker in a world where New York is one of the fucking 7 circles of hell.
Yeah, but she's very calm and has her shit together in a very dysfunctional way, which I think involves a lot of drug use. I don't know. I can't remember. Because doesn't he follow her up to that weird drug den?
She does. Yeah. Or he does, yeah. It's just very quiet. It's terrible. Again, similar film to this where it's like really scary.
That's a great movie, guys. If
it's really, really good.
I'm trying to remember if he has a love interest in adaptation. I'm looking at the cast there. Like, I don't know. Maybe is Tilda Swinton his love interest? I'm not going to comment on that because I don't remember. Sorry, guys. It Could Happen to You. It's him and Bridget Fonda, who is wonderful. Okay. People forget about Bridget Fonda because she retired so many years ago. But this is Bridget Fonda from Jackie Brown.
Yep.
Who is obviously a daughter of Henry, I guess. She's fantastic in that. I haven't seen that movie in years, but I remember that being romantic and lovely, and they're great together.
What's her character in Jackie Brown again?
She's like the blonde in the apartment.
Oh, with De Niro?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Then you've got Holly Hunter in Raising Arizona, who's wonderful in that, as this kind of like very Coen Brothers-y, Minnesota-ish cop woman. She's like a Frances McDormand in Fargo type character from my recollection. In Peggy Sue Got Married, Nicolas Cage plays like a geeky teenager high schooler opposite Kathleen Turner, and Kathleen Turner's the lead of that movie, so that doesn't really count, but that relationship is intentionally set up to be ridiculous. In Dream Scenario, Julianne Nicholson is the wife. I don't feel like the romance is really...
Well, Dylan Jalula is the love interest here.
Yes, Dylan Jalula is also a member of this conversation. Well, he's great with Dylan Jalula. They should they should be in something else together. As problematic as people might think that is. City of Angels, him and Meg Ryan. Great film. I love City of Angels. Meg Ryan meets him and he's an angel. Yeah. And he's like, hello, I'm an angel. And that relationship's a bit weird. But Meg Ryan's good in that film. Then you've got Con Air. He's married to Mrs. Parenthood lady. Whose name
Face Off. He's married to John Travolta.
Does he have a? No, in Face Off, he's the bad guy. He doesn't have a love interest in that. He creeps on the daughter. Who's his wife in? Oh, Monica Potter's his wife in Con Air. Yeah. In The Rock, yes, there was a girl in The Rock, and we didn't know who she was, and we had to look her name up. Just Mrs. Random Lady. Her name is, of course, Vanessa Marcil.
Yes, she was Spanish.
Something. Not a lot to say about her. Then in Leaving Las Vegas, you got Elizabeth Shue, very good in that. Not competing with Laura Dern. In The Family Man, you've got Téa Leoni, who is the worst part of The Family Man. I'm sorry to Téa Leoni. I watched that recently. I'm not a big Téa Leoni fan. In The Weatherman, you got Hope Davis, who is, unfortunately, there's a pretty low ceiling on how impressed I'm ever going to be by Hope Davis in a movie, but she's fine. And I'm looking now, the rest of these movies, we're talking stuff like Snowden and The Croods, Season of the Witch. Bangkok Dangerous, does he go out with a blind girl, or is he blind?
No, he dates a blind.
He dates a blind girl played by...
Is it a romantic thing, or is he just kind of minding her?
I think she's his girlfriend.
Yeah.
I think there's a romance there. I can't even name the actor, I'm sorry, so I can't comment on that one. No. Eva Mendes is his girlfriend in Ghost Rider. Fine.
Sure.
In Next, it's Jessica Biel.
Sure.
Okay. In World Trade Center, you got Maria Bello. That's another version of the Téa Leoni.
I think we got to move on from this.
And soon. Then we got Nadia. Rose Byrne is the wife in Knowing. Yeah, let's move on. Laura Dern, best love interest Nicolas Cage has ever had, I think. But Patricia Arquette's good competition there.
Very much so.
Him and Patricia Arquette should have made more movies together instead of
getting married.
Making married. Laura Dern is the other star of this movie. He plays Sailor, and she plays Lula, not to be confused with the president of Brazil. She is the best part of this movie. She's so good in this. And she's, of course, David Lynch's muse throughout his career. She stars in Blue Velvet. She stars in this, Inland Empire, and then pops up in Twin Peaks: The Return. Mm-hmm. I guess that's every collaboration between her and
Lynch. She doesn't show up in Mulholland Drive at all.
She doesn't, no. I think he kind of swaps her out for a younger model in Mulholland Drive in a not gross way. But I think Naomi Watts,
but like the Naomi Watts
is fulfilling that role. Naomi Watts has to be that age for that film to work.
Yeah, because it's young woman moves to
she's
Los Angeles.
Whatever, 10 years younger than Laura Dern, I imagine. But he is obviously remains great friends with her until you know, his death, and she's in The Return as Diane. The reveal of her as Diane midway through that season is incredible because Diane exists in the original Twin Peaks as a concept of somebody that Cooper talks to through his, you know, tapes, his WhatsApp voice note buddy. And the reveal of Laura Dern, who everyone, of course, knew was going to be in it at some point because the cast list was released 2 years ahead of time in alphabetical order for The Return, right? Brilliant way of just like keeping you on your toes.
Yeah.
They released the cast list in alphabetical order. So I remember at the time being like, all right, okay, so all these people are in this. And me just kind of jumping to the conclusion, and I'm not sure why I did, that Amanda Seyfried was going to be the lead of the show. Mm-hmm. Because to me,
that seems like the next
she was the next one down after Naomi Watts.
Yeah, blonde actress.
I don't know, though, why I felt like The Return had to have a young blonde woman as its protagonist because Twin Peaks was never like that.
That's where he gets you.
That's where he gets me.
He never
Amanda Seyfried is one of the least memorable parts of The Return. I don't even know if she's in more than one episode. She's in one or two episodes. Is she the one hanging out in the woods with Caleb Landry Jones?
I think so. She's a guy. She has a shitty boyfriend, and then she's like around the diner, and she's kind of living in a trailer park.
She's not a particularly significant part of it. She's good in it, but Naomi Watts ends up being in it a lot more.
Naomi Watts, she's Dougie's wife.
Naomi Watts is probably the most female screen time in that show. Maybe her and Laura Dern, but Naomi Watts is amazing in The Return. She's always amazing when she works with Lynch. But I think Lynch gets the best out of Dern and vice versa. I'm not a big Blue Velvet person. I did like half watch it when I was 16, and then I properly watched it about 3 years ago, and I just don't get any enjoyment out of it the way I do out of the ones I love.
Like I don't remember it having the kind of affecting positive angle to it that something like this does.
It's just upsetting and downbeat, and it's kind of just hitting all the same notes as like dozens and dozens of kind of weird suburbia movies have. Like bad stuff like American Beauty, good stuff like Ghost World have all touched on the same ideas.
Yeah.
I know he did it first, but having watched it when I did, I just don't connect to it the way I do to the stuff, the kind of the five.
It's not Chris Cooper. Is it?
Oh, Dennis Hopper.
Who's amazing. I get two of them mixed up.
Yeah, Dennis Hopper. Well, Dennis Hopper has died a couple of years ago, but he's great in it. Isabella Rossellini's great, and Colin McLaughlin is great. My Lynch ranking, for what it's worth, I'll get yours as well, is Wild at Heart, Mulholland Drive, 1 and 2. Interchangeable, really. Twin Peaks: The Return, number 3. Then Elephant Man. Then Lost Highway. Then The Straight Story. Then Blue Velvet, Eraserhead, Fire Walk with Me, and then Dune and Inland Empire are just the ones I'm not into. And I say that, and like they are 3-star films, but they are not films I ever want to go near ever again. Yeah. And I couldn't say the same about the other 9 that I named. You've seen like 5-6 of these. What's your ranking?
Probably Mulholland Drive.
Yeah.
The Return.
Yeah.
This.
Mm-hmm. You prefer this to Lost Highway, I assume.
Yeah.
It's definitely more likable than Lost Highway.
It is.
You haven't seen Straight Story. You haven't seen.
Yeah, I think that's.
You haven't seen Eraserhead.
They're coming to get you.
Yeah. What did Jack do?
What did Jack do?
Yeah. We gotta get you
no,
watching. Gotta get you watching Elephant Man. I'm not gonna bully anyone into watching Eraserhead or Inland Empire.
I'm gonna bully myself into watching Inland Empire.
But you do that. But you'd be well worth watching. Elephant Man. I'll watch Elephant Man any day. It's fantastic and a great Lynchian film that Lynch made that nobody ever thinks of as a David Lynch movie. Even though it sets the table for like it is not conventionally Lynch, and it's way less of a David Lynch movie than The Straight Story, which is the one that people kind of make jokes about because they're like The Straight Story is rated G and released by Disney, and it's like but it looks and sounds like a David Lynch film. The Elephant Man looks and sounds like a great 1940s drama, but it was directed by David Lynch and stars Anthony Hopkins and John Hurt, and it rules. But back to Laura Dern, she's basically the kind of lead of Blue Velvet, and then she's like the entire center of everything in Inland Empire. Inland Empire is sort of like built as a vehicle for Laura Dern to just go nuts, and she's in scenes with Justin Theroux and with Jeremy Irons and with Harry Dean Stanton. and then in all this weird stuff that happens in Poland, and that film is just totally nuts. And Laura Dern is allowed to go nuts in it in a way that, like, if you wanted to make the case to me that it is like one of the best performances of the last 25 years, I would shrug my shoulders and say, fine, you make that case. Film,
the cow says so.
Yeah, if the cow says so. That film to me is just unimpenetrable to a degree that I think maybe other people feel about all of David Lynch's films. But to me, I can get inside most of them and find something to love and to latch onto. And Dune has none of that because it is a poorly made science fiction film, and Inland Empire has none of that because it is an aggressively angry and just hopeless piece of work.
Yeah, he really leans on the misery and the gruesomeness to project the happiness and things.
He understands
it's a complete demonstration of contrast to kind of prove your point.
Yeah. But he's ultimately he is the sum of his own kind of philosophy, which is he's a guy who looks like that, who talks like that, you know?
Yeah.
If you're a guy who wears a suit and has kind of funny hair and has a very serious, craggy face, but you talk like a cartoon mouse, you are probably going to be a human contradiction of light and dark elements, which his work tends to be.
Yeah, I don't know. So I don't know. Sometimes do you ever find it hard to kind of pair that up?
Sure.
Yeah.
But I don't think I find it hard in this film. And I don't think I find it hard in The Return, which is the 18-hour supersized version of all of his shtick, stretched out as far as you could believe. And The Return goes, and we were watching an episode of it here the other night, and we subjected Christina to elements of it that she didn't see coming, where you have these 15, 20-minute scenes in The Return where nothing happens, and then something really scary happens in the end. Yeah. But then the funniest comedy skit of the year happens immediately afterwards. Shit that is Tim Robinson level absurdist, hilarious, of people screaming at each other and being ridiculous.
And then there's 20 more minutes of a guy and a girl talking about, hey, I got you coffee.
Yeah. But David Lynch's favorite thing in the whole world is to have a woman screaming at the top of her lungs. 50% of the time, it is the road rage woman in The Return shouting, "My daughter's very sick." And then 50% of the time, it is, sexual violence. And it is really up to you to parse whether you can take the horrible stuff to get the fun stuff that'll come later down the line.
So I guess the fun stuff doesn't function without the horrible stuff.
I know, when he creates that crazy juxtaposition. So, what a guy. But I want to talk about Laura Dern for a minute, who is a wonderful actress, who's never someone I would be like, one of my favorite living actresses. But then I think about it and I'm like, she kind of has to be, because she's in so many films I love, and she's so wonderful in all of them. She's, of course, the daughter of the great Bruce Dern and Diane Ladd, who is the mother in this movie, who we must say briefly is incredible. Yeah. She paints her face red with lipstick. She got an Oscar nomination for this. She's just so shrill in a brilliant way. And her scenes with Harry Dean Stanton are so good because he's so he's such a fucking little cigarette of a man.
And again, she's another layer of contrast to this, where Cage and Dern don't seem too bad when she's at her antics.
Yes, exactly.
It's just
I didn't realize that her and Bruce Dern were only married from 1960 to 1969, and they've been separated
Laura
since.
was born?
And Laura was born in that period. It's hilarious.
Okay.
Laura was born in 1967. That's so funny.
Bruce Dern, is he in this?
Bruce Dern's not in this. No,
never.
Bruce Dern and Laura Dern never appeared together in a project until last year, when they showed up together in that Kristen Wiig Apple show, Palm Royale.
Oh, Jesus.
Which was a project that Laura Dern acquired as a producer to star in herself. Yeah. And then I think didn't want to commit to playing the lead in. So she handed it over to Kristen Wiig, took a supporting role, and then cast her dad in it as well. Bruce Dern, someone may never get discussed in detail in this podcast because he's such a character actor, but he is a legend, 2-time Oscar nominated. The only actor in the world who has worked with Hitchcock, Tarantino, Alexander Payne, Hal Ashby. I'm looking at the list of directors. It's insane. Patty Jenkins, and has been in multiple TV shows as well. No one goes from Hitchcock through to Tarantino. He's the only person who has traversed the generations. Yeah. He's only 88 now, which is crazy because that means that when he got his Oscar nomination for Nebraska, he was only in his 70s. He looked 99 years old at the Oscars that year. But I love Bruce Dern. He's great and weird, and he produced a wonderful daughter. Laura Dern had I feel like a kind of a quiet period in the 2000s where the only film from the mid 2000s I can think of that Laura Dern is in is the HBO original movie Recount, where she plays the Florida Secretary of State who was involved in the Bush Gore recount, which is a really fun movie that Jay Roach made with Kevin Spacey and her and Dennis Leary.
I feel like a lot of my association with Laura Dern is just that she is someone who shows up in things and you go, it's Laura Dern.
That's funny.
I guess I don't have much of a recent relationship with her.
You also probably haven't watched most of the stuff she's a lead in.
No,
like,
that's the thing.
She's
like
in,
most recent stuff is like she's the mother in Little Women.
Yeah,
she's the counselor in Marriage Story.
Yes,
she's
she's in a couple of big movies as a teenager. Apart from Blue Velvet, she's in the Peter Bogdanovich movie Mask, but she's in Smooth Talk, which is really good, which is based on a Joyce Carol Oates short story, where she just basically plays a teenage girl who's being groomed by a creepy man who's played by Treat Williams. That movie's really, really good if you haven't seen it. She's in Wild at Heart in 1990s. So she's only 23 in this, 22.
Yeah.
And then 3 years after this, she is the female lead in Jurassic Park. Did you even remember that she was in Jurassic Park?
Yep.
I bet you didn't. Well,
I did. I feel like there's.
Have you seen Jurassic Park?
No.
Yeah,
there are gifs of her.
Jurassic Park is like the I would have bet €1 million you hadn't seen Jurassic Park. There's just no way you'd seen it. Like,
it's so weird I didn't, because I was such
that's just shit that you wouldn't watch.
I was such a dinosaur child.
But am I not right in thinking you haven't seen any Indiana Jones?
No.
Yeah, and you hadn't seen Star Wars until recently. So your avoidance of franchise films as a child is unparalleled. Quite incredible. Anything that wasn't coming out.
I have a weird, distinct memory of being like 4 years old and Jurassic Park coming on the television.
Okay.
And
well, maybe you were scared.
For some reason,
you didn't watch it.
I didn't watch it because I was like, this is an adult's film. But it wasn't a fear thing. I was like, oh, big dinosaurs, but this is going to be like 3 hours long and I'm not going to watch this.
When you were 4 years old. You were not 4 thinking that. You were probably 7.
6 or 7.
Yeah. Well, Jurassic Park.
I just had some completely incoherent reason as a child for thinking that Jurassic Park is not something is not something I can sit down and watch now.
Right.
Because it's not for me.
You. Yeah. All right. Well, fair enough.
I've kind of gone the other side of that now, where I'm too far beyond.
Yeah, you're not going to watch Jurassic Park now.
No.
I'm never going to put. This is the problem with you having not seen certain classic 80s and 90s films, the Spielberg type films. I'm never going to show you them.
Yeah.
I don't have any affection for Jurassic Park. Living with Mr. Cinephile, who watches 12 films a week, will not benefit you to watch Spielberg films, because I will never put those on out of nostalgia. But she is very good in Jurassic Park. It is funny. I was like, she's kind of on a tier there with the other female leads of the big franchises: Carrie Fisher, Karen Allen, Emma Watson. She's the only one of those women who's ever kind of like
broke the type,
kind of like had a bigger career than that film was. You know? But she's in a weird sequence of Jurassic Park 1, Jurassic Park 3, and then she comes back for 2022 Jurassic Park Dominion, which basically just brings back her and Sam Neill and Jeff Goldblum for like 25 minutes and just does the whole like nostalgia bullshit, and probably paid them an insane amount of money. She's in this movie I Am Sam, where Sean Penn plays a Simple Jack type.
Oh, God.
And she's in We Don't Live Here Anymore, which is a movie about two couples having interchangeable affairs with Naomi Watts and Mark Ruffalo. I don't think you've seen this. I've been trying to watch it a couple times over the last few weeks, and it's a bit boring. But it's her, Watts, Mark Ruffalo, and my beloved Peter Krause from 911. She's not in a lot of real movies in the 2000s, apart from, of course, Inland Empire. But then in the 2010s, things really pick up. She's in Little Fockers as the head of the daycare center.
Oh, she is.
She plays Shailene Woodley's mother in The Fault in Our Stars. She has a supporting role in The Master. And this is the moment where I become aware of Laura Dern, is when she's showing up in The Master, Fault in Our Stars. She plays Reese Witherspoon's mother in Wild, and at this point I'm like, you're not listing a lot of lead roles. No, I'm not, but I'm like, this is a supporting actress that I register now as someone that my dad responds well to, because she's in great films in the 90s.
Yeah.
She's then in the Kelly Reichardt movie Certain Women, which is kind of a boy party I'd like to do someday, with just her, Kristen Stewart, and Lily Gladstone, which is really good. And she's in Downsizing, and then she's in Star Wars as Vice Admiral Amelin Holdo, and she's one of the parts of that movie that people hate, the Rian Johnson Star Wars.
Oh, really?
She plays a real like Hillary Clinton coded.
Okay.
That's dismissive, but like a democratic female president type lady general who the misogynists responded poorly to.
Sure.
She's in this film in 2018 called The Tale, which is meant to be one of the most upsetting films ever made. And it is a film about a woman reflecting on her childhood where she was sexually abused by John Gallagher Jr. from The Newsroom and Elizabeth Debicki. I will never watch this film. It is a film that is meant to be so depressing and upsetting that it could not get a theatrical distributor in the US and ends up just being shown on HBO. So despite it having some actors in it I absolutely love, I will unfortunately never be watching this film.
That's an insane set of 3 actors.
Isn't it such a weird bit of casting?
John Gallagher?
John Gallagher, yeah. She plays the female lead in a Liam Neeson ice road trucker revenge movie called Cold Pursuit. The very same year that she appears in Marriage Story and Little Women. Now, I'm not sure that anyone in the history of movies has been in 2 films in the same year as good as Marriage Story and Little Women, but she is fantastic in both films. Yeah. She wins an Oscar for Marriage Story. Did she win an Oscar for the right film? I don't know. I don't think she's the best supporting actress in Little Women, obviously, because I think Florence Pugh is the best supporting actress in Little Women. I also have a kind of...
I don't remember her being a majorly significant part in Marriage Story.
She's not really, no. Like, she's not my favorite part of Marriage Story. She's not just really good in it, though.
How many times do they go back to her as the therapist?
She is Scarlett Johansson's lawyer. And she's
the lawyer.
She's the lawyer. And there's a number of scenes where she is in meetings with Scarlett Johansson privately. Then she's in scenes where she's bickering with Ray Liotta across the table.
Yeah.
And then she's in courtroom scenes later on.
To watch Marriage Story again.
We're going to do it in the show soon. Yeah. She's popping in and out of scenes constantly, basically filling Scarlett Johansson up with hatred for Adam Driver in this incredible California, like LA sleazy way. Like, she's playing...
Marriage Story is kind of bombast wild heart.
Oh, absolutely, it is.
It's just a different,
it's a different outcome,
different style of it.
But she's playing the kind of best ever, I would say, female twist on slimy male lawyer, divorce lawyer character. And Ray Liotta and Alan Alda's characters are weirdly kind of lacking in that toxicity in that film.
They're just a bit incompetent.
Yeah, like Ray Liotta is nasty and cynical, and Alan Alda's just kind of a silly old guy with shaky hands. But she's incredible in that. But she wins the Oscar for that. Little Women, she's really good. I do find her in Little Women to be a little bit like irritatingly perfect in the sense she's like, oh, my sweet daughters, I am so kind. We have given the dinner away to the poor people. And like, that's the way the character is written. But Laura Dern plays it so earnest that it's like a little bit unctuous in some scenes where you're like, turn it down a little bit. You're not an angel.
Have a tiny bit of conflict going on.
Yeah,
there.
Like she's such an angel in that film. She's like so perfect and such a wonderful mother. You're like, oh, please turn it down a tiny bit. But she's so great. And the scenes where Saoirse Ronan is getting upset and the scenes where she's caring for the daughter who's dying. Oh, she's wonderful. She's so good in the two of those. And then since then, she's been in Jurassic World, The Sun, and she's in the new Baumbach, of course, Jay Kelly with Clooney and Sandler and Dern and Crudup. Her TV career is mostly this show that she's in on HBO called Enlightened, which is a Mike White show that gay men in their 40s go nuts for that ran for 2 seasons.
She's not in Big Little Lies?
She is. I'll get to that in a second.
Sorry.
I watched the first episode of Enlightened last night in preparation for this. That is a show where she has a nervous breakdown, gets fired from her job, goes to a meditation retreat for a while.
Is this a pills performance?
Yes, very much so. Comes back and is then basically like flipping between like hysterical and calm, and it's a real like Julianne Moore-esque pills performance. Laura Dern great at those performances, but it's real like I'm screaming and there's mascara running down my face, and the whole show is that, and it's Mike White, so it's meant to be very tongue-in-cheek, but people love that show. I don't know if I'm ever going to watch the whole thing, but it seems like a fun show. Then she is in Big Little Lies, as you said, as Renata Klein. Now, it's funny that she plays Reese Witherspoon's mother in Wild, and then immediately in Big Little Lies plays a mother with kids in the same class as Reese Witherspoon. But she's basically the villain of Big Little Lies as the female characters go, in the sense that she is this kind of rich, pernickety woman whose beautiful daughter, and I literally remember the daughter's name, I'll never forget it, Marabella. And she's like, your son said terrible things to my Marabella. And the whole first season is just her being a fucking nightmare to Witherspoon and to Kidman. Because Kidman's in this abusive marriage with Alexander Skarsgård, and her kids are acting up. And then Shailene Woodley's son is acting up too, young Sheldon, because he's been a product of an abusive situation as well. So Laura Dern is
so are all 4 of them playing counterparts?
Yeah, they're all mothers with kids in the same school. But Shailene is like noticeably younger than the rest. That's acknowledged.
Okay.
That show is so good. Then in the second season, Meryl Streep shows up and becomes the new villain. So Laura Dern gets kind of like swept in as one of the good women.
Yeah.
And then there's an incredible scene in season 2 where her husband will not stop playing with his toy trains in the basement, and she takes out a baseball bat and smashes his toy trains to bits. And it is one of the most incredible things I've ever seen. So I love Laura Dern so much in that show. And then she's in 9 episodes of Twin Peaks: The Return, and then she's in 9 episodes of that show Palm Royale that I talked about, and that is your Laura Dern career. And just great to see an actress be recognized in her 50s and given an Oscar. She also, I must say quickly, ran to be president of the Academy a couple of years ago and didn't win.
Oh.
She wanted to be the head of the Oscars for a few years, and she's kind of the most famous person who's run for that since like Gregory Peck era.
Is it usually just kind of an executive?
I think it's a cinematographer.
Oh,
now,
really? Okay.
Like it's somebody well respected. It's no one I know the name of it on my head.
You don't know who beat her out at the time?
The person who's in the job
it's
currently.
still current.
Gregory Peck had the job once.
Yeah.
It would have been fun if Laura Dern had that job. She would have probably made a lot less movies. She might not have made Marriage Story or Little Women. So I think things have worked out fine. It wouldn't benefit me for her to be in that job. But it
seems like a job you take if you don't have much interest in being in more movies.
Yeah, like you should take that job. Like fucking Cameron Diaz should take that job. Someone who wants to soft retire in their 50s should take that job.
Instead of making
back in action. What else do we have to say about this film? Who wins the movie? I mean, they're both wonderful.
They both
Cage kind of does in the sense that he's the one that I quote, but that's just because I'm a Cage head. I don't know.
He's the more obvious one to quote. It's kind of sad
he says
quoting.
All the crazy stuff.
It's kind of sad quoting Laura Dern.
But dry those toenails, darling. What is the exact quote? Are your toenails dry yet, baby? We got some dancing to do.
We got some dancing to do.
Oh, he's so
You're just like my daddy.
Yeah. My daddy died 1 year before I met you, sailor. And then I love her.
I have to tell you how my daddy died.
Yeah.
He poured kerosene on himself and lit himself on fire.
Oh, wonderful. And then at the end when Cage is, he calls the F slur one of the guys on the street.
Yeah.
And then they beat the shit out of him. He sees Glinda the Good Witch. He comes back to consciousness and he says, with a big honking nose on him.
Oh, yeah.
And he goes, I want to apologize to you gentlemen for referring to you as homosexuals. I will also want to thank you fellas. You've taught me a valuable lesson in life. Lula!
I had forgotten the ending. And God, when he goes,
so good. Oh, it's beautiful.
Because he just leaves. It's so tragic when you just see the son there and he's like,
yes,
you've been without me for 6 years. You can keep going.
Weirdly, the same plot as Con Air, where he departs his wife and daughter to go to prison and is desperate to get back. Very similar. Yeah. Anything else to say about this movie? I love so dearly, and David Lynch. I'd say we've said a good bit.
Good man for the roads.
Absolutely. Nighttime road stuff is great. That version of Wicked Game is great. But also the Angelo Badalamenti score is incredible. The way it's used and the big romantic kind of
then the metal thing that just hits every now and again.
The metal is great as well. This is based on a book, by the way.
Really?
Or is the book comes out the same year as the film.
Oh, is that a...
No, but the book came first. But I think Lynch acquired it maybe before it was published.
Okay.
By Barry Gifford, the story of Sailor and Lula. Barry Gifford's a well-known name, I feel like. Yeah, there you go. So, adapted screenplay.
I'd like to see to what extent.
Yeah, I know. But anyway, that's great. 1 Oscar nomination, as I said, for Diane Ladd.
That's a weird one to get 1 Oscar nomination, because if you're giving one, why
you're paying attention to it? Like,
yeah,
why would you not?
You're aware of it.
See, she just was someone they liked. She'd been nominated a couple times before that. Now, what I want to know is what was this? Who were Diane Ladd's competition at the 63rd Academy Awards? I'll tell you now. She lost out to Whoopi Goldberg in Ghost. Well, that's just ridiculous. Annette Bening was nominated. Lorraine Bracco in Goodfellas was nominated, and Mary McDonnell in Dances with Wolves. I would have been very happy for her to win. I don't think Whoopi Goldberg in Ghost needed to win an Oscar.
Yeah.
Sorry, Whoopi Goldberg. That's the Goodfellas Dancing with Wolves year. I will do the Letterboxd top 4 game.
Yeah.
For the box office.
I'll load up the box office.
I have pulled up the Letterboxd profile of somebody with this movie in their top 4 favorite films, and I'm going to make Shane guess their other 3 favorite films
Is
with
this your
some
account?
clues. No, this account, I do have this in my top 4 favorite films right now. No, this is the account of Dougie Jones, whose photo is of Dougie from Twin Peaks, Colin McLaughlin in the green jacket with a cup of coffee. Dougie Jones is the account, and the bio is Road Movies, Please.
Road Movies.
So,
please.
4 favorite films. One of them is Wild at Heart.
Is there any other Lynches on this list?
Yes, there is. One other.
Is Twin Peaks: The Return there?
No.
Oh, well, that's just
No,
stupid.
there is one other Lynch.
Mulholland.
Correct, yes.
Yeah.
So Mulholland and Wild at Heart. Then we have two other films that have nothing to do with David Lynch. So
Are they films that is consistent with liking David Lynch?
Not really.
Like, it's not like who are other cool people like Paul Thomas Anderson?
No.
Is there Scorsese films there?
No.
Okay.
No. One of these is 2011, and one of these is 2020.
A little Wes Anderson in there?
No.
All right. Start giving me hints.
2011 film is a film with the tagline, "There are no clean getaways." This is similar to Wild at Heart in the sense that this movie features a cool and iconic jacket.
Cool and iconic jacket.
Yeah. This is like the most iconic
Is there
jacket
like
a man
a-
has worn in a movie this century.
Ghost Protocol?
God, no.
Okay.
No.
Is there a male-female pairing in this?
Nope. There is a man on the poster, and he is the
Oh,
star.
Drive.
Drive is the
Drive,
correct
yeah,
answer.
yeah, Drive.
Okay. One more to guess. 2020. This is a film with a female lead, directed by a woman. From 2020.
Ooh.
And the tagline is... it doesn't have a tagline. That makes sense.
Is this a straight to streaming film?
Well, everything in 2020 was a straight to streaming film. No, it's not a straight to streaming film. This movie was seen in as many cinemas as anything in 2020, although not by me. I did watch it on streaming.
Did you not watch it because you don't like the actors in it?
No, the cinemas were closed when it came
Cinemas
out.
were closed. Okay.
No, I was very
Female
excited for this.
director.
This was probably my most anticipated film of the year, apart from Tenet.
Oh God.
I was very excited for this.
I
I watched the trailer like
is
a
it
million.
actiony?
No, not at all.
Not at all.
No. I watched the trailer for this like a million times. Thought it looked amazing.
Ugh.
It's got a great poster.
Does it have an actress you really like?
Yep.
Who are your gals?
Hmm.
Who are your gals?
What other clues could I give?
How old is she?
The actress in it?
Yeah.
In her 60s?
Oh. Tilda Swinton.
No.
No, she's too young.
No, it's similar age, but not her.
Are we in Julianne Moore territory here?
Not Julianne Moore. Someone I like more than Julianne Moore. Someone I really, really love. Someone we've discussed in the podcast.
Oh, okay.
Someone I may have mentioned today.
Laura Dern.
You won't remember that.
Is it Laura Dern?
No, it's not Laura Dern. You won't remember that I mentioned this woman today, though. I said it very offhandedly.
Is it because she's in a Lynch?
She's not, no.
No. Is she in a Jurassic?
No.
Is Kristen? Wait, no.
No. Okay, I will give you... Oh, what clues can I give you?
Would I know the director?
Yeah, you would. This film won a good few awards.
Oscars?
Yes.
Oscars in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
So the Oscars of 2021.
The Oscars that took place in the year 2021 awarded this film.
This is a Greta Gerwig of
Nope.
sorts.
No. But similar in the sense
Oh,
that
is this Nomadland?
Nomadland.
Nomadland, yeah, Frances McDormand.
You never see people with Nomadland in their top 4 on Letterboxd. A film I should rewatch because
Another film with roads.
Lots of roads.
Lots of
I
roads.
did like Nomadland at the time, but
Yeah, is he just a guy for roads?
I need to revisit it. I think he says
Mulholland Drive.
road movies, please.
Oh, fuck, yeah, sorry.
I mean, yeah, I'm looking at what he has a list called Americana with Nomadland, Wild at Heart, Into the Wild, and Fargo on it. Yeah. All right. Nice guy.
Yep, cool.
All right. Box office time. So we're going to do the highest grossing films of 1990. All right, Shane. Quiz me there.
Okay, I've just gotten a different list when I click into the numbers, so I'm not sure.
Cool.
Top grossing movies in 1990.
Okay. Perfect.
This is, I believe, a film that is features an actress who might win an Oscar this year.
Interesting. Nicole Kidman?
No.
Who might win an Oscar this year?
Sorry, maybe not might win, but like his nomination contention.
Demi Moore.
Demi Moore.
In 1990.
Yeah.
I'm very bad on Demi Moore. What is this? Is this drama?
Sorry, I hope I'm not completely off here, but I think I'm correct.
What was Demi Moore doing in 1990? I have very little knowledge.
This is
sorry. Is it Ghost?
It's Ghost. Yeah.
Okay, Ghost.
This
I
is
just
like
mentioned
her
it.
main thing.
Ghost was the highest grossing film of 1990. Wow. I'm gonna have to watch.
Yeah.
Ghost. I'm gonna have to watch
200
Ghost.
and
That's insane.
217.
Wow. I'll have to watch it. All right.
Next up, more women of a certain kind.
More women of a certain kind. Ghost women.
No, but not far off.
Certain women.
Certain women.
What are women of a certain kind? Not ghosts. Witches.
No.
Okay. That's
Nicer than that.
Nicer than witches.
Nicer than witches.
What's nicer than? What are women? Nuns.
Sorry. Woman singular.
A woman singular.
A woman of a specific type.
Sister Act.
No.
What's a woman of a specific type?
It's a type of woman we like.
What's a type of woman we like?
Starring a big female star and a big male star.
Who are big female stars in 1990?
This is a boy party, I guess. Because two of them are on the poster back to back.
Yeah, okay. Is Meg Ryan in this?
No.
Is Barbara Streisand in this?
Nope.
What the fuck? What is this? Who were famous women in 1990?
Kind of the most famous one.
In the world.
Probably, like,
not Madonna.
No.
This is an actress.
She's very, very famous actress.
Not a famous actress. Okay. And she's still alive.
Yep.
And she won an Oscar, do you think?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd imagine so.
Meryl Streep?
No,
Sorry,
but you're getting
who's
close.
more famous than Meryl Streep?
No one. She's just like,
who's like the most famous actress?
she's like, if you ask my parents, like, name an actress.
Julia Roberts.
Julia
Pretty Woman.
Roberts, Pretty Woman. Yeah.
Pretty Woman's not very good.
Okay.
Okay, that's the answer.
Good to know.
Pretty Woman. People were really into movies for women in 1990. Good to see.
Good.
It's like Ireland every year.
Yeah. Yeah, Richard Gere is the man in that.
Bridget Jones Mad About the Boys coming out in like 3 weeks and is about to break every record this country has ever had.
Absolutely.
Anyway,
we should go just to top up the numbers.
I don't think I could possibly endure it, but maybe.
Okay, next up. We got not a woman this time, but a child.
Oh. What's the child doing?
This is probably, like, I'd say this racks up several dollars every year from re-releases.
Is it Christmas shit?
Yeah.
Home Alone.
Home Alone.
I would have sworn Home Alone made more money than Pretty Woman and Ghost. That's
it made $2 million less than.
right.
Sorry, Pretty Woman came out in March. This came out in November.
But this would include all the money that it made. All
Think
right.
so?
Well, Home Alone is it would. Anyway, Home Alone.
Right.
I've never seen the full first Home Alone because it has a tarantula.
Oh, really?
So I've never
That's
sat.
at the very beginning, isn't it?
No, it comes up a few times.
Okay.
So I've never watched it in full. Second one's good though.
Okay, next up. Not a woman, not a child, not a man,
But another thing.
but another
An
thing.
animal.
Sure.
A dog.
No.
A cat.
No.
A dinosaur.
No. Multiple of them.
Multiple dogs.
No. Multiple of other creatures.
Multiple. And they're all the same type of creature.
Yeah.
Muppets.
Close.
No, they're puppety things.
No.
But Muppets is close. What?
In silliness.
Are they based on
They're
Ninja Turtles?
Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, I tried watching that a few years ago. It's not good.
Yeah.
Sam Rockwell's in that as like a street thug. All right, give me one more and we'll stop.
This is a film I think the two of us started and just never finished.
The Hunt for Red October.
Hunt for Red October.
I marked that as watched a few weeks ago.
Oh, did you?
Because I wanted to bump my Baldwin numbers up, but I hadn't finished it.
Okay.
We done?
Yeah. Okay, like I'll just call it the next 5.
Yeah.
Total Recall. Die Hard 2. Dick.
Starring Colmini.
Dick Tracy.
Starring Colmini.
Starring
2 in a row.
2 in a row.
It was Meanie season.
We
were big meanies that year.
Oh, we were big meanies. Wait, is he in Hunt for Red October?
No, he's in Die Hard 2, and he's in the thing you named after Die Hard 2.
Dick Tracy.
He's in Dick Tracy.
Dick Tracy.
With Al Pacino and Warren Beatty.
Oh,
and
very
Madonna,
good.
yeah.
Then we got Driving Miss Daisy and
the Best Picture winner.
BTTFP 3.
Oh, Jesus Christ. BTTF 3.
BTTF P3.
Back to the Future. Oh, it's called
Part
3.
Part
yeah,
3,
that's the one that's a Western. No interest.
Oh, and number 11, we got our favorite TV show of last year, Presumed Innocent.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
I've been meaning to watch that film.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. We're glad we got to celebrate the work of David Lynch with a boy party movie. If he hadn't made a boy party movie, we wouldn't have talked about him at all. So well done, David, for putting 2 major stars in your film.
David has ascended to the boy party in whatever part of the university exists now.
And
so
he will be featured in the in memoriam of our Golden Boys episode.
Yeah.
He is one of the greats. He's one of my favorite filmmakers ever. I would have said one of my favorite living directors, and now he's one of my favorite dead directors. It's really sad.
Yeah. Just overall nice guy.
But
everyone had
cool
nice
guy.
things to say.
Love him dearly. Love this film. I highly recommend you watch it if you haven't, and I highly recommend you watch all this other stuff. And we'll talk about Nicolas Cage again, I'm sure, because he has there's a lot more Cage left to discuss.
Yeah.
Thank you for tuning in. We'll be back next week. And you can visit boypartypod.com, follow Boy Party Pod on Blue Sky, and that's it. Because I'm not pointing people towards the fucking fascist web. No, I'm not talking about the.
Go to Red. Find us on Red.
Yeah, I'm not recommending the Musk or Zuckerberg sites anymore. So follow us on Blue Sky and Spotify. All right, bye.
Bye bye.
What year is this?
What year is this?